Well, we've done it. We've crossed 100 subscribers on this channel, which to me is just so incredible. I mean, I launched this channel 3 weeks ago, and to see that grow to that number already means so much to me. And I know reflecting on this video is going to be specifically rewarding because this channel is going to grow larger and larger over the years. So to have this captured moment of me saying 100 subscribers when one day it's going to be at 100,000 is just going to be an awesome experience to reflect on. And maybe you're watching this in the future and we're well past 100. We're at 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. Maybe it's grown to that size already. But regardless of where you are in that journey, whether you're part of the first 100 people or the first 100,000, I just want to say thank you for being here. And if you're like, yo, what the heck's going on? By the way, my name is Jordan Tarver. I'm an author and speaker out here in Seattle. I wrote a book called You Deserve This Shit that went viral on TikTok, sold over 30,000 copies, and I'm now in the process of writing my next book, and I'm documenting the entire thing. So welcome in, and I'm happy to have you here. But without further ado, let's get to it. So you want to know how I got to this place in my writing career? Yeah, I can give you the full story. Cool. So I went to school for business finance at Cal State Fullerton, and leading up to graduation, I realized that it wasn't really what I wanted to do anymore. I remember I picked finance because I thought it would give me my best shot at like having a sexy paycheck. And then I got to graduation and I was like, wait a second, I don't want to do this. But I needed to find out what I wanted for myself. And so I'd saved up some money during college. And so I thought it'd be a good idea to go on like a soul searching backpacking trip. So I bought a ticket to go on a backpacking trip to Europe. And as I was thinking about the trip, I really wanted to make this an intentional trip. I wanted it to be something where I came back a different version of myself. I didn't want to just go there to go to museums, go to bars, and do those normal tourist things. I wanted to come back a different version of myself. And I knew that was going to take a level of intention that would require a little bit of work. And as I was thinking how to do that, at least at the time, I didn't love writing. I wasn't a good writer. It wasn't anything that was in my orbit quite yet. And as I was thinking about how to make this trip intentional, I was like, I think bringing a journal would be a really good idea. But I didn't want to just bring any journal. I didn't want to just buy a black journal off of Amazon. I wanted to bring something that would feel more meaningful. And so I bought a leather-bound journal off of Etsy. And I felt like this would be a good way to make this thing just feel a little bit more meaningful. But then I got the journal and I was like, I feel like they could be even more meaningful. And so I created this patch that says "To whom it may concern" on the front of the journal. Had it sewn on by a shoe repair guy, actually. And the concept behind this was that if I dropped this journal, whether it was at a hostel, I was on the train, if it fell in my backpack, whoever would pick it up would feel like it was written for them. And so I documented this whole trip, what I was going through, what I was feeling, what I was experiencing. And then when I came home, I was jobless, I was houseless, and I spent 2 months on my buddy's couch as I kind of figured out this next step in my chapter. And I would surf in the morning, and then I would come home and I'd have like 6 hours by myself because all my friends were at work still. And I thought, like being the intentional person I am, I need to fill my time intentionally. And I was like, well, wait a second, I have this journal with a bunch of journal entries in it. I should make this into a book. And so I started to copy all those journal entries into a Google Doc. And then I was like, well, how do I make this like the most impactful for the people that are going to read it? And I thought it'd be a good idea to put present day reflections that reflected on those journal entries to draw out the lesson that I was learning. And that's what I did. And then I published this more as like a passion project, but I published it as a book. And that book was called To Whom It May Concern. And I published this thing kind of just as something I would put out for my inner circle, my community, something to be a keepsake for my family one day. But as I was writing that book, I was starting to fall in love with the process of writing a book. For so long, I'd never put out anything publicly, and it just felt really good to create something for something greater than myself. And so that's when I was like, I want to do like a real self-help book one day, like a real traditional self-help book. And so that's when I got the idea to do my book, You Deserve This Shit. And You Deserve This Shit is just a book that is a toolkit of everything I learned on my trip to Europe. And it's all about, getting unstuck, finding your path, as you know. I've told you about this book many times. But it was my way to share the lessons that I learned in a way that people could use it to better their own life. And then I published the book in June of 2021, and for the first 7 months, it was like crickets, man. Like it was No one was there, or so it felt. And there came a point where I was about ready to give up. I was about ready to just throw in the towel and be like, yo, my writing career is done. It's over. And then I was like, I need to switch up my marketing plan. At the time on Instagram, I only had 8,000 followers and I had no TikTok account at all. No, it wasn't even created yet. And I knew TikTok was becoming popular, so I was like, I have to go over there and try this. I have to make it work. It's not working on Instagram. So I go to TikTok and I start just posting about my book. I was like, if I just talk about my book every day, multiple times per day, people will see it. It's inevitable. And I still remember on December 26, 2021 at my parents' house. Yeah, it was that significant that I remember the day. I woke up and I looked at my Amazon account and I had 100 copies sold overnight. Yeah, 100 overnight. That was like how much I did in the first 7 months. And I was like, something's happening. So I go on TikTok and I see that videos are starting to go viral with my book in it. And I just saw this opportunity, I just saw an opportunity to position my book on TikTok and really like get into the book talk community over there. And so I start leaning in hard to talking about my book there. And I really thought that it was gonna be a flash in the pan. I was like, who am I to experience this success? It's just gonna be, this day is it, and then it's gonna go back to zero. But then at the end of January, I did 1,000 copies. 1,000 copies. Yeah, I couldn't even really understand it, that, I don't know, I couldn't process it, man, it was tough. And I started to think again, like, self-doubt, like, this is gonna be flash in a pan. But then I remember the first weekend of February of 2022, I had a video with my book in it go viral with 3.5 million views. And then my gears started turning and I just started thinking about how much copies I sold in the previous month. And I was thinking if I did 3.5 million, it's gonna be crazy. So I go on my Amazon account. I did 1,800 copies in 3 days. Yeah, 1,800, man, it was wild. And then at the end of the month, end of February, 5,000 copies. 5,000 copies. And I started to think, okay, this is a sign from the universe that I'm meant to be doing this. And that is really how I got to the place of wanting to write this next book. So after You Deserve the Shit blew up and it sold a bunch of copies, I started to think about writing my next book. And I was looking for some direction, some guidance, and I started to look at my favorite authors like James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, Mark Manson, who wrote The Subtle Art, or even Michael A. Singer, who wrote The Untethered Soul. And I was looking at them to see if they've documented their processes on writing a book and how I can learn from it. But of course, none of them did that. And I was like, dang, like that would have been a sick thing to use as a resource. And then I was like, wait a second. Maybe I can be the first person to do that. Maybe I could be the first person to document the process of writing a book from start to finish. So here I am. That's what I'm doing. And there was one thing that really came up for me when I thought about what would make this fulfilling for me. What do I need to achieve in this process of documenting my process? What would I need to achieve to make me feel happy? And there was one thing that was very, very clear, and that was inspiration. I'm making a big bet on creativity in the world. I'm making a big bet on ideas, and I believe that creativity is one of the most powerful things for all of humanity. And I just hope through this process that I can inspire you to pursue your own ideas, whether that's as big as a book or just a small thing you want to do with your friends or community. Like if you have something that comes to mind and it's something that will help you express yourself, I hope this really motivates you and inspires you to explore that self-expression, because there's so much that comes from self-expression. There's so much that comes from creativity. You not only heal yourself and kind of understanding who you are, but you also heal other people. Like for example, my sister is an incredible musician, and she put out a record a couple years ago, and she just got a DM the other day from someone who found her record in Florida. My sister lives in Australia, who found her record in Florida and said that she's been going through a breakup and her music has been really, really been helping her. And I think that is a perfect example of the importance of creativity. It doesn't just soothe your soul, but it helps soothe other people's soul. So if I can inspire a little of that, if I can be a little of the impetus or the nudge for you to chase your ideas, I will be completely happy with the result of this. And when I think about documenting my process, that's what matters to me.
The thing that worries me sometimes whenever you talk about creativity, because it can have this kind of feel that it's just nice, or it's warm, or it's something pleasant. It's not. It's vital. It's the way we heal each other. In singing our song, in telling our story, in inviting you to say, hey, listen to me, and I'll listen to you, we're starting a dialogue, you know? And when you do that, this healing happens. And we come out of our corners and we start to witness each other's common humanity. We start to assert it. And when we do that, really good things happen. So if you want to help your community, if you want to help your family, if you want to help your friends, you have to express yourself. And to express yourself, you have to know yourself. It's actually super easy. You just have to follow your love, right? There is no path. There's no path till you walk it. And you have to be willing to play the fool.
Oh, Jordan on the post-it!
Yeah! Post-its are still running strong over here.
It's good.
Oh, I just spilled water. 1 second.
Oh, yeah.
Pause. Pause. I spilled water twice today, which is, I don't know if that's a sign from the universe or something, but
What could it mean?
I don't know.
Maybe it's like your something is in Pisces and, you know.
My Saturn returns in Pisces, so it's intense. I think it's been a good Saturn return because I'm aware that it's happening. The most visceral way for me to explain it is there's multiple versions of myself that I see in front of me, and it's like choose your character of who you want to move forward with for the rest of your life. And so I feel like I'm at this place of like trying to understand who I want to show up as in the world for myself and for the people around me. And within that choice is also the choice of who to let go of and who to leave behind of my versions of myself, you know?
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah.
when you choose a new version of yourself, I'm not just choosing to be this person, but I'm also choosing to not be someone else. You know, I think there's a lot of grief in growth that not a lot of people talk about because you need to grieve the person you once were and the person you, it's 111, person you are no longer. And I think there's a level of acknowledgement and forgiveness and celebration that happens through that. And I think that's where the uncomfortability comes from. So the post-its behind me are because I'm starting to, or I have been working on my next book. But I haven't started writing. I've just really focused on the concept. And so these are things that are ideas that are going to be in the book. And I've basically been living the book first in order to write it. And I think that's why I've been on this insanely deep transformation and change journey, is so I can actually have experience to teach from.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to hear that you're writing a new book.
I've been working on the concept for like a year, but I did like an opening ceremony. I have it on my wall over here on May 3rd, 2023. And I just journaled about, I asked myself, what can I do and make for the universe through this channeled project? How do I want to...
Wait, that's a great question too.
Yeah, and that's like, this is what I keep on my desk. I don't know if you'll be able to read it, but it says, what
What can I do for the universe?
I try to ask myself that question every day in life. What can I do for the universe? Or if I'm creating something, like, what can I create for the universe? And I think that really aligns me with like a higher calling and a higher message that isn't just like in my mind, but it's like connected through source. And then I said, how do I want to feel when I write the book? And then...
Well, and how did you want to feel in your intention document? Like, what were those flavors?
The first sentence says, I want the ideas to come through like a running faucet.
That's so good.
So
that's so good.
I did that like a year ago, and then I started like the whole wall process. And then now I'm at a point where I really understand what I'm trying to create. And that was the point of it, was like I wanted to have so much intention with this book that I understood the concept and message so clearly that when I wrote it, I wasn't questioning it anymore. I knew exactly what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
And so this process of doing it for a year just has allowed me to understand, what do I want to say?
I just am so inspired, like, by like it's just so refreshing to hear you talk about like the place that you're creating from. So I had a lot of calls this week with friends about my creative ideas and creative process. And one thing that keeps coming up for me is the reminder around the importance of not sharing your ideas too early on in the process. I waited a year to share this idea with anyone, and that allowed me to develop that idea with more clarity, more confidence. And so when I shared it with people, what they had to say didn't make me doubt the idea. And I think a lot of times when we share ideas early on in the process, we're looking for external validation. And we don't have a level of understanding of what we want to express. And so what people say, it really impacts us. And a lot of times it makes us doubt the idea, it makes us not believe in it.
and it makes us not want to pursue it. And so I would encourage you to hold on to that idea longer than you think so you can develop your own point of view. You can develop that creative security, creative confidence, creative clarity, and so that when you talk to those people, you leave with a lot better of a feeling. You don't feel like you're doubting the idea. You don't not believe in yourself anymore, but it was just a conversation to share your idea, hear what they have to say, but you're still going to do it. And all the things I've learned so far in my creative process and creative career, the one thing that has been really, really clear to me is this. The best validation you can get is not from anybody else, it's from yourself.